It was a calm morning in London, 1914, when the first tremors of a war that would shake the world began to reach the ears of ordinary citizens. On the cobblestone streets, children played as mothers carried baskets of fresh bread, and men walked briskly to their offices, unaware that the world they knew was on the brink of chaos. Across Europe, political tensions had been simmering for decades. Nations had been building armies, forming alliances, and competing for colonies, creating a fragile balance that could be toppled by a single spark. That spark came on June 28, 1914, in the city of Sarajevo, when Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary was assassinated. Within weeks, Europe plunged into a war unlike anything the continent had ever seen. Britain, a nation proud of its empire and its navy, found itself drawn into the conflict almost immediately. On August 4, 1914, Britain declared war on Germany. For many, the announcement felt surreal. Ordinary men, who had spent their days in offices, fields, and workshops, suddenly felt a stirring call to duty. Propaganda posters appeared on every corner, urging citizens to enlist, shouting slogans like, "Your country needs you," and "Fight for king and country." Young men, fueled by a mix of patriotism, peer pressure, and a desire for adventure, began flocking to recruitment offices in cities and towns across the nation. Training for war was brutal but necessary. In sprawling camps outside major cities, recruits learned to march in formation, fire rifles with precision, construct trenches, and prepare for chemical attacks. Drill instructors emphasized discipline, endurance, and camaraderie. Letters sent home from the camps reveal a mixture of excitement and anxiety. Young soldiers wrote about the pride of wearing the uniform, but also the nervous anticipation of leaving home and facing the unknown horrors of war. Soon, the soldiers boarded trains and ships that would take them to the front lines. The journey itself was an education in the realities of modern warfare. As they crossed the English Channel, many soldiers felt a mix of excitement and fear. Some gazed over the deck at the vast gray waters, imagining the battles that awaited them. Others clutched letters from loved ones, holding on to the last pieces of home they would see for months, sometimes years. Their first encounter with the realities of combat came swiftly at Mons, in Belgium. Facing experienced German troops, the British soldiers quickly learned that war was not the grand adventure many had imagined. The battlefields were chaotic, with artillery fire tearing through the landscape and machine guns cutting down men in seconds. Despite the fear and confusion, soldiers found courage and camaraderie, often holding on to each other as they moved through mud-filled trenches under constant threat of death. Life in the trenches was harsh. Soldiers faced relentless rain, freezing mud, swarms of rats, and diseases that claimed more lives than enemy bullets. Shell shock, a term barely understood at the time, began to appear in medical records, revealing the psychological toll of continuous bombardment. As the war progressed, technology transformed the battlefield. Machine guns, long-range artillery, poison gas, and, eventually, tanks changed the nature of combat, turning it into an industrial-scale massacre. Communication was vital. Runners, signalers, and telegraphs connected front lines with command centers, ensuring orders were carried out despite chaos and destruction. Soldiers were part of a deadly, mechanized symphony, often overwhelmed by the scale of destruction around them. Meanwhile, life back home was changing dramatically. Women, previously confined to domestic roles, entered factories, offices, and farms producing weapons, ammunition, and food for the war effort. Rationing became a daily reality as supplies dwindled, and families worried constantly about letters from the front. Propaganda posters encouraged citizens to buy war bonds and support soldiers, creating a tense mixture of fear, pride, and determination across the nation. The home front and the battlefield were now inextricably linked, each affecting the other in profound ways. Colonial troops from India, Australia, Canada, and other parts of the British Empire also played a crucial role. Thousands volunteered, driven by loyalty to the crown, promises of adventure, or economic necessity. They faced the same dangers, harsh conditions, and psychological stress as British soldiers, adding another layer of complexity to the global conflict. Their presence highlighted the vast reach of the British Empire and the scale of the war, which was truly global in nature.
It was a calm morning on April 19, 1995, in Oklahoma City. The sun had just begun to rise, casting a golden glow over the streets. People were starting their day, walking to work, sipping coffee, chatting about their plans for the morning. Children laughed in the distance, and the city hummed with the ordinary sounds of daily life. No one could have imagined what was about to happen. At exactly 9:02 a.m., a massive explosion tore through the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building. The ground shook violently, and a deafening roar filled the air. Windows shattered into thousands of pieces, raining glass down onto the streets below. Dust and smoke billowed out, creating a thick, choking haze. People screamed. Some ran blindly, tripping over debris, while others froze, unable to comprehend the horror unfolding before them. Emergency sirens blared in the distance, and cars screeched to a halt. The once busy streets were now filled with chaos and confusion. Office workers tried to help the injured, strangers comforted strangers, and every heart pounded with fear. In that moment, Oklahoma City was no longer the same. Ordinary life had been replaced with fear, uncertainty, and tragedy. Families searched frantically for loved ones, and first responders raced toward the destruction, knowing that every second counted. The morning that began so normally had turned into a day that would forever be remembered in history. As the dust slowly began to settle, the true scale of the devastation became clear. The Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building lay in ruins, a gaping scar in the heart of the city. People stumbled through the debris, coughing, shielding their faces from the lingering smoke. Screams pierced the air, some calling for loved ones, others pleading for help. Panic spread like wildfire. Emergency workers arrived within minutes, sirens blaring, their faces set with determination. Firefighters, paramedics, and police officers moved swiftly, helping the injured, guiding the confused, and trying to restore order in the chaos. Ordinary citizens joined in as well, lifting beams, pulling trapped people from rubble, offering water and comfort wherever they could. The streets around the building were a blur of movement, cars abandoned in haze-blocked pathways. Onlookers stood frozen, horrified, while the injured cried out for help. Every second felt like an eternity, as survivors realized that many were still trapped inside the crumbled structure. Amidst the destruction, small acts of heroism shone brightly, strangers helping strangers, hands reaching out through dust and debris. In those moments, amidst fear and despair, the strength and resilience of the human spirit became unmistakably clear. Amid the dust and chaos, the first rescuers arrived. Firefighters and paramedics rushed toward the crumbled building, their faces set with focus and determination. Every second counted. They pulled people from the debris, some trapped under beams, others dazed and bleeding. Tears and relief mingled as survivors were carried to safety, their stories of panic and bravery spilling out with every breath. Witnesses recalled the moment of the explosion, describing how glass shattered around them, how walls collapsed like sandcastles in a storm. Children clung to parents, crying, while strangers offered blankets, water, and calm words. Even in the midst of tragedy, the city's spirit showed itself. People worked together, lifted heavy debris, and held each other up when hope seemed lost. News crews arrived, broadcasting images of destruction across the nation. Families frantically searched for missing loved ones, phones rang endlessly, and prayers filled the streets. In the midst of horror, small miracles happened, people rescued against all odds, acts of kindness that would be remembered forever. The Oklahoma City bombing was no longer just an event. It was a story of resilience, courage, and the human spirit standing strong in the face of unimaginable tragedy. Among the chaos, survivors, stories began to emerge. Some recalled being thrown off their feet. Others spoke of the deafening roar and the walls collapsing around them. Yet even in those terrifying moments, acts of courage shone through. People carried coworkers, guided children through debris, and helped the injured to safer ground. Each story was a testament to the strength of the human spirit. Emergency responders worked tirelessly, moving through the dust and rubble. Their faces were streaked with soot, but their determination never wavered. Families clutched each other tightly, offering whispered reassurances. Strangers held hands, supporting each other physically and emotionally. In those first hours after the blast, fear mingled with hope. Hope that more people would be rescued. hope that lives could be saved against all odds. The city watched in silence and horror as the scale of the tragedy became clearer. Yet even in despair, there were moments that made hearts swell. A firefighter lifting a child from debris, a volunteer giving water to the exhausted, a neighbor comforting a grieving parent. These stories of survival, courage, and compassion would become the heart of Oklahoma City's memory, even as the city struggled to comprehend the destruction around it. Firefighters, paramedics, and police officers poured into the scene with unwavering determination. Dust covered their uniforms and sweat ran down their faces, but nothing could stop them from reaching those trapped inside. Every beam lifted, every call answered, every hand held. These acts of heroism saved countless lives. The air was thick with smoke, but the will to survive burned brighter. As they moved through the rubble, they encountered people injured, scared, and dazed. With calm words and gentle guidance, they reassured the terrified, showing courage in the face of danger. Stories of rescue began to spread. Someone saved a child. A worker pulled a neighbor from beneath collapsing debris. These moments were small miracles amid the overwhelming tragedy. The streets were filled with chaos, but also with humanity at its finest. Volunteers joined in, carrying supplies, comforting survivors, and assisting the emergency teams. In these first critical hours, the city's heart revealed itself. Determined, compassionate, and unbroken, despite the devastation surrounding it. Families frantically searched for loved ones, fear etched into every expression. Phones rang endlessly, but answers were scarce. Parents called children, children called parents, and the city listened in anxious silence. The explosion had separated families, and the uncertainty was agonizing. As they moved through blocked streets and debris-strewn sidewalks, neighbors offered guidance and support. People shared stories, hoping someone might know the whereabouts of the missing. Tears flowed freely, but so did courage and resilience. Each family's hope fueled them forward, refusing to give up even in the face of heartbreak. Amid the confusion, stories of survival emerged. A mother found her child in a safe corner. A coworker guided another through a dangerous hallway. Every reunion was a small triumph, a glimmer of light in a day dominated by darkness. These personal stories, though small individually, collectively painted a portrait of human perseverance and unwavering love. News crews arrived on the scene, broadcasting the devastation across the nation. Images of the collapsed building, shattered windows, and terrified citizens filled screens everywhere. The public watched in disbelief, unable to comprehend the scale of the tragedy. Reporters described the horror as it unfolded, but also the courage of rescuers and civilians alike. Families in other cities called friends and relatives in Oklahoma City, desperate to know if they were safe. The nation mourned collectively, as the shock rippled far beyond the city's boundaries. Despite the chaos, the media also captured stories of hope, strangers helping strangers, emergency workers showing tireless bravery, and survivors finding their way to safety. These narratives became a testament to resilience, reminding viewers that even amid profound tragedy, human compassion remained unwavering.